Another thing that Ridley Scott tried to do was to create a dark happy end with a twist. Deckard becomes attracted to Rachel, a replicant, but he is a Blade Runner destined to hunt replicants. Falling in love with a replicant will never be allowed. A beauty is not allowed to be tied with a beast. But the power of love dissolves the curse, and the both of them who became a human are bound together. And there is the opposite way to solve the problem. If one of them were a beast, the other also becomes a beast. Shrek is such a story. And that's probably what Ridley Scott wanted to do with Blade Runner. Deckard, human and the Blade Runner should not love a replicant. But the origami tells him that he is a replicant. He was also a replicant like Rachel. The two share their fate and run away. They get on the lift and the door closes, and the end theme plays. Without the twist that Ridley Scott had in mind, this twisted happy ending won't happen either. But only Ridley Scott asserts this idea that Deckard is a replicant. This is why people did not understand it until the director's cut was released. The ongoing controversy means that many people still don't believe it. And the twist is difficult to understand even in the director's cut or the final cut. It is not the one that everyone can understand. It's too bad she won't live, but then again, who does? Deckard remembers Gaff's words. When he first heard the words, he thought it meant Rachel was going to be killed, but she was alive. Her life is limited, but everyone else is the same. This is probably the meaning of Gaff's words. The origami and the memory of the unicorn were added to it, creating the expression that Deckard is also a replicant. According to Paul M. Salmon, a serious argument began between Philip K. Dick and Ridley Scott after the film is completed. The reason of it was that Dick didn't like the way to portray replicants, androids, in the film. Dick said, "The androids in my mind are a metaphor for people who are physiologically human, but their behavior is inhuman. The replicants aren't supposed to have a spirit, but you gave them spirits." Ridley Scott answered, "They are something like Superman who can't fly and have defects. That's why they are perfectly human." Philip K. Dick destined the androids in Electric Sheep as an existence without spirits. And he criticized Blade Runner for portraying the replicants as being with spirits. Dick is said to have died without seeing the film. He probably thought so after reading the script. The image of androids in Electric Sheep comes from the Nazi SS or the Vietnam War. The androids are presented as a symbol of something that has lost its humanity. Dick fears that fighting people who have lost their humanity will take away your humanity. The idea of the protagonist becoming the same as the androids influenced Puncher and the Peoples. It is related to Ridley Scott's Deckard is a replicant theory. And this is exactly what Nietzsche feared. He who fights with monsters should be careful not to become a monster himself. And if you stare long enough into an abyss, the abyss will stare back at you. Even if the androids were evil, isn't he who can kill them without hesitation also evil? The story of overcoming that is the original story. But there is one odd point. The androids in Electric Sheep are not necessarily inhuman beings. You kill just those poor Andes. Iran, his wife, said at the beginning of the novel. Runaway androids should be killed. But why kill them? and not capture them. If you kill them, you can never use them again. The original reason is that they killed their owners when they ran away, but the idea has been extended. Killing the owner doesn't seem to be a prerequisite. The reason for killing them is thought to be that they have a different sense to the believers of the religion of mercenarism. Luberlat is an android who escaped to become a singer. Her song is moving. Though essentially harmless, she was killed by a bounty hunter named Firesh. He killed her without a moment's hesitation. Isn't he who is inhuman? And isn't Deckard losing his humanity too? Although Deckard is concerned about what is human, he challenges the fight against the androids. There is almost no material difference between an android and a human. The way to certify the difference is to undergo a bone marrow analysis test or a void camp profile test, a kind of psychological test. The standard of this void camp test is the value system of the believers of mercenarism. Anyone who shows reactions different from the believers of mercenarism is judged to be an android. It is similar to the idea that anyone except followers of a particular religion can be forced to be a slave. An android is killed for being an android. That is why it's interpreted as slavery. Although androids are not biologically human, they can be considered human if their contents have humanity. Will it not be more important to think and act like a human than to be a biological human? Philip K. Dick's idea is generally interpreted in this way. If so, it is possible that the android has more humanity than the real human. In fact, it is written in the novel that many of those called special do not pass the test. If the existence of good androids is possible, why did they complain about their portrayal? It is an odd story. Dick has a short story called Human Is. The protagonist, Jill, was fed up with her selfish husband, Leslie, and was thinking of divorcing him. The husband, who has returned from a business trip to another planet, has changed completely. Now he has become the ideal husband. Jill's older brother, Frank, noticed that Leslie was being taken over. The planet Leslie visited was inhabited by indigenous people. The Earthman killed most of the natives. One of the few survivors took over Leslie's mind and escaped. Jill was asked to testify that Leslie had been taken over. If the right treatment was given, the alien's mind would disappear and Leslie's would return. But she testified that there was nothing wrong with him. She decided to make the alien her husband. Dick, the author, wrote the commentary on the story. No matter what you look like, no matter what planet you were born, that has nothing to do with it. The question is how much you are kind. No matter what you look like, no matter where you go, no matter what kind of thing you will become, the specialty of kindness will never change permanently. The question is how much you are kind. No matter what kind of thing you will become, it won't change. Even if it is an android, it could still be a gentle android. Electric Sheep is a work that can be interpreted that way. Dick's readers would rather think so. But Dick is said to be angry because the replicants in Blade Runner were drawn humanely. Unlike the original story, Rachel was drawn as a gentle replicant. That's why Deckard fell in love with her. The independent website made an interesting point. Rachel has love. That's why she has humanity. It has something to do with Descartes' famous cogito ergo sum. I think therefore I exist. That's why Deckard is like Descartes. I think that Ridley Scott, who thought that androids can be a human existence, understood Dick's idea better than Dick himself. Is it possible that Dick himself doesn't understand his own idea? Everyone lives with their contradictions. Most of Dick's contradictions seem to be symbolized in the serious argument between Ridley Scott and himself. So why did Ridley Scott see replicants as human existence? Of course, he was influenced by the scripts written by Hampton Fancher and David Peoples. The clue seems to be in a conversation between Scott and Fancher. Why did the android come to Earth? Ridley Scott asked Fancher. It is a reasonable question. Normally a refugee wants to go far. That is why they left the colony planet and came to Earth. Since the future Earth is sparsely populated and vast, once they have managed to get there, it will be easy for them to run away from humans. These are probably things that many people vaguely think about. However, to come from space to Earth, you would have to board a spaceship. There is a high possibility that you will be caught. It will take considerable determination and skill to get through. There must be a reason for going all the way to Earth. Fancher is confused and unable to answer, and he came up with a setting like this. Their lifespan is short. They came to Earth to meet the creator of the androids to extend it. God created the whole world, including man and animals, in 6 days. For man and sheep, God is their creator. Man created android and artificial animals like electric sheep. For androids and electric sheep, man is God. According to the Old Testament, man was ordered by God to rule other animals. Other animals were created by God. Real sheep are on the same level as humans in that they are both created by God. That's why Deckard wants a real animal created by God. The relationship between God and man or animals is the same as the relationship between man and androids or artificial animals. This is natural, but Deckard in the original story never thought about it. He had never thought of this before. The similarity between electric animal and Andy. The electric animal, he pondered, could be considered a subform of the other. A kind of vastly inferior robot, or conversely, the android could be regarded as a highly developed, evolved version of the Earth's animal. Both viewpoints repelled him. This film emphasizes that man is God to the replicants. Their God is Tyrell, the president of the company. Roy Batty, the leader of the replicants, asked Tyrell to prolong their lives. But he refused. Roy Batty killed Tyrell. The story can be called parricide. The original story does not include this episode. In the original story, these androids simply wanted freedom and escaped. In the film, however, they demanded further freedom and bargained with their father, killing him after the bargain broke down. You could say that was more human. The replicants were made by humans and their freedom is taken from them. Man was created by God. Man was supposed to gain freedom at the cost of being expelled from paradise. But how many people can really feel that they are free? They feel that they are forced to be a kind of slave. They want to be free from that. Don't most of us feel for the replicants? This is where exists another reason why we can't empathize with Deckard. In Blade Runner, the character that the audience identifies with is the replicant. Why did Roy Batty save Deckard? In the original story, Roy Batty is not an important character. He is one of the androids who are cared with others at last. However, in the movie, Deckard is almost unilaterally tortured. Deckard is about to fall off the edge of a building and is saved by Roy Batty. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. With these words, Roy Batty reaches the end of his life. This expression is said to be the impromptu by Rutger Hauer, who played Roy Batty. The reason Roy Batty saved Deckard is to show that he has more humanity than a real man. Ridley Scott described this in an interview with a British SF magazine. He also said that Batty knew the limits of his life and wanted Deckard to see him die. But Ridley Scott told Rutger Hauer something completely different during the shooting. He is said to have explained that the reason Batty saved Deckard was only a reflection. Replicants reflectively hold something falling. The interpretation seems to have changed within Ridley Scott. I believe Batty saved Deckard because Ridley Scott was interested in that kind of story at the time. In his first film, Duelist, the protagonist chose not to kill the enemy. In Black Rain, Michael Douglas chose not to kill Yusaku Matsuda even though he could have. The reason Roy Batty didn't kill Deckard must have been the same reason. The idea of the replicants being more humans must have come to Ridley Scott later. The process of completing Blade Runner was a complex interaction of lots of odd incidents. The author of the original story expressed the evil by man compared to androids. But humanity is decided by its content. Being born as a man does not guarantee it. Although the author's idea was included in the script, the author became angry. The director's doubt added the replicant's action to pursue freedom, the factors of independence or parasite. The Nietzschean apprehension that was in the original story was inherited to the screenplay. But the director misunderstood it, and the idea that the protagonist himself was the enemy to defeat was born. The director tried to reflect his idea to the story, but it was impossible to properly edit the huge amount of the film that his enthusiasm had created. Those who had the final editing right removed the most important parts. That's how the incoherent film was born. Although the film was not well received in the cinemas, it was well received by the users of video recorders and established itself as a critically acclaimed film. Blade Runner is definitely one of the masterpieces of science fiction films, but its story is incoherent. Of course, the director wanted the film to be a hit. It is not easy to pursue your own aesthetic and achieve commercial success at the same time. But Ridley Scott challenged it again. This is Black Rain. The worldview of Black Rain is very similar to that of Blade Runner. At least, the atmosphere of the shots is similar. The motif of a detective working in another world is the same. The main character, played by Michael Douglas, successfully apprehends a villain who has escaped to another world and returns to his own, just as Deckard returned to his wife in the original story. Black Rain was a huge success at the box office, and that leads to the glory of Thelma and Louise. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up.